Welcome back to Tales from Me trying to negotiate my way through life. Last week my parents were in town and my sister and I were trying to get reservations at restaurants here in San Francisco for 4 people, and that can be a near Herculean task at times, and I had 2 different situations that were not turning out the way that I wanted them to. I'm gonna go through each situation and tell you how I addressed it and hopefully give you some tips on how you can do the same. Let's get into it. So it's Thursday night and we want to go to this place called Anchor Oyster Bar. It has great cioppino if you're ever here in San Francisco. But they have a 45-minute wait and no reservations. And so we put our name down and it's over 2 hours before we get seated. And so by the time we get seated, I am pretty upset. I'm tired, I'm hungry, and I decide to say something to the wait staff. And I'm thinking about, well, how can I address this without just being completely rude and really angry? So as we were getting seated, I pulled aside the waitress and I said, look, I'm gonna seem like a totally rude customer here. I know you guys are working hard and that you're probably staying late just to get us seated. And when we talked to you earlier, it was like a 45-minute wait, and it's been almost 2 hours now. And you know, my parents are visiting from the East Coast, so they're really tired at this time of night. And I know this is not intentional, it's probably not your fault, but I just wanna let you know that it was a little bit disappointing. So the result was that she was super apologetic. She actually gave us a bunch of free food and the wait staff was super attentive, and we turned what was kind of a negative start into a pretty decent evening and everything was fine. I would say that one of the most remarkable things was that I actually calmed down myself because I didn't amp myself up by getting kind of aggressive and angry, and because of that, I actually felt totally fine after I'd had the discussion with her. So to break down what I did there, it wasn't just trying to be nice. It was me, first preparing her for something really negative by saying, hey, I'm gonna be a totally rude customer here, because I wanted to kind of overshoot so that when she realized that my demeanor and tone was not rude at all, in her mind it would be something like, oh, actually this guy's not being rude at all, and she's kind of come over to my side as opposed to being a little bit defensive. The next thing I did was I spoke to the world from her perspective. I talked about her working hard and staying late, and it was authentic appreciation, and the reason is I don't want her thinking about like a defense. Instead, I want her seeing that, hey, I already see things from her perspective, and so she's open to whatever I'm gonna say next. Finally, I voiced what I was upset about, except for I didn't use the word upset or mad or angry. I used the word disappointed, and I placed the blame away from myself. I gave it from the perspective of my parents who are tired, they're from the East Coast, and that way she can kind of see things from my perspective and have empathy for my situation. Now, you can imagine there's probably a lot of other ways to go about this where I'd be much more upset, but this actually, taking a couple moments to think about how I sculpted the argument helped calm me down, and I actually feel like it enhanced our relationship as opposed to like her having to try to placate an angry customer. So the second situation is that we were out for brunch on Mother's Day and we were in wine country. It was a beautiful place. We've been waiting for about 45 minutes and they had said it was gonna be like an hour and 15-minute wait. And my mom and my sister go up to the front to see what our status is, and they say, hey, it looks like you've only been here for about 25 minutes. It's gonna be about 45 minutes more. And they're like, they come back, they're like, Craig, can you go talk to them? And the short result is that we got seated 30 seconds later, and I used a lot of the same tactics that I used in the last example. So here's what I said. I walked up to the counter, I said, hey, I'd love to check on our status. I give them my name, and they say the same thing that they said to my mom and my sister. And instead of fighting, I said, wow, it looks like you guys are super swamped today. I know that you're probably working really hard to get everybody seated, and you're probably powerless to change what your system does. And I'm not sure why your system says that, but I know we've been here for at least 45 minutes. And one of their younger employees was like, I just checked the system. It says you've been here for 26 minutes, so you've actually only been here for 26 minutes. So when he said that, I was like, man, this feels way more aggressive than I was expecting, but I purposely stayed away from being defensive. And I said, yeah, I can totally understand. You guys must have so many people coming here. You can't possibly remember all the specific details or anything. And I totally get why you need to trust your system. I'm not sure why it says that, but I do know like we've probably been here for closer to an hour. At this point, his boss overhears this and she steps in and says, don't worry about the system at all. I'm so sorry about that. Let me just, let me fix this. I'm gonna get you a table immediately. Just go grab your family. And she gets us our table. In both of these examples, even though there were 30-second exchanges, there was still the opportunity to see the world from their perspective and then specifically articulate it, because it's really tempting to instead like sit back and like try to come up with a bunch of defensive responses or offensive things to kind of like get around whatever they're gonna say. And that puts both sides on the defensive and just makes it harder to move. In both situations, I was very specific to not assign blame, and I spoke to things from their perspective so they didn't have to come up with a strong defense, and that let them hear what I was saying. In fact, I didn't even ask for anything specifically. I let them come up with those answers themselves. I think it's really common to think of negotiation as something that happens in a boardroom or at a car dealership or when you're trying to get a new job. But the truth is we are in these really low stakes situations all the time, every day. And they're really great opportunities to practice these things where you are practicing moving people at an emotional level to get them to change their mind. And then when the high stakes situations come up, it's much, much easier to apply this stuff. I hope you enjoyed these tales from my own negotiating life. They are happening to me every single day, so I'll keep making more videos about stuff like this. And if you like this video, let me know by hitting the like button. And of course, comment down below if you have questions. Subscribe to my channel. I'm coming to you with a new video each and every week. I'll see you next time.